If you feel like learning how to code is taking a toll on your confidence level, this video is for you. Learning how to code is complicated. It is hard. It uses logic that we don't use in our day-to-day lives just normally, and it may take time to really understand how it all works. It may be overwhelming. And it's also very tempting to compare yourself to others, your peers or other people in the industry, people who may have had much more experience than you. They may have started learning how to code at a much earlier age, or maybe they just understand certain concepts faster than you do. And it's nothing to do with who's smarter than who. It's just that the fact that the materials that they found or that they used made sense to their brain and to their learning style, etc. We will talk about that in a second. But yeah, basically, this video is for those of you who might be lacking confidence when it comes to learning how to code, or maybe your confidence level is diminishing the further you get into it. Regardless, I want to help you get your confidence level up. So that's what we're going to do in this video, and I'm going to share 5 different things that I think you should do, and I think that you should follow that order that I presented them to you in. And finally, I have a downloadable PDF with some of the exercises that I mentioned in this video. You can download it using the link in the description. The key to confidence when learning how to code is practicing and building projects. I'll explain more and talk about things like neuroplasticity in just a second, but first I wanted to thank the sponsor of this video, True Name Domains, and tell you about an exciting offer that my friends at name.com are offering the Coding Blonde community. Get a True Name domain for $2.99 using the promo code CODING at name.com. Find out more details using the link in my description. So what's a true name domain? To put it simply, they use keywords at the end of the URL. So after the dot, instead of the ones that we're familiar with, like .com or .net, they can use .live, .today, .watch, etc. They're perfect for creating projects that stand out and help you create a unique personal brand. There are hundreds of memorable domains to choose from. Some interesting ones are .software, .life, .today, .studio, .place, and hundreds more. I personally love the extension .codes, and I recently got masha.codes as a placeholder for my current website's About Me page. I will come up with a cool project to link it to later. And I feel like masha.codes sounds so much better than mashacodes.com. Unique and memorable true name domains are more specific, which means that there's no need to compromise on your website's URL. And you're also telling people what you're doing and what you're all about just with the URL. Go to the link in my bio or to name.com/codingblonde to get this limited offer. Simply search your name or for a preferred keyword to explore all of the available domains. And don't forget to let me know in the comments what unique combination you end up coming up with. So as I've already mentioned, practice makes it perfect. You gotta put in the time and the effort. You gotta invest in your skills. Nobody is born a natural at something. Sure, you can be born with certain predispositions, but that doesn't mean that you can't grow in other areas where you don't have a predisposition. Or if you do have a predisposition, you still need to work. You still need to put in the effort and invest time into this skill, into growing this skill. In his book, The Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 100,000 of hours rule. And he talks about people, outliers out there, like Bill Gates or Michael Jordan, who are known for being amazing at something. And he actually breaks it down into how much work and how much practice and how much just effort they have put into this something. For example, Bill Gates, when he was a child, had incredible opportunities to practice computer science and programming computers. So that's why he was so further ahead than his peers. And that's the case with most talented or successful people out there. They really have put in the time. They are not worried about being a newbie at something. They're not afraid of hard work. They're putting in the time. So I highly recommend putting in the time and building projects, coming up with something that you enjoy doing, problems that you want to solve, right? So projects that come out of that. And I also highly recommend reading 2 books. So Outliers, that I've already mentioned, by Malcolm Gladwell, and also Mindset by Carol Dweck. And it's all about growth mindset and how when you put in the effort, you can achieve anything. And it's so true. I mean, this has been proven on a scientific level. Carol Dweck has a PhD in psychology. She has studied this for years and years and years. And finally, there's this thing called neuroplasticity, which is basically, and I'm not a psychologist, so please don't quote how I'm explaining this. You can look up the exact definition as well. But basically, it's our brain's way of creating new connections to sometimes, whether it's restoring itself or adapting to a new situation or learning a new skill. So the more you do something, the more connections between the different synapses happen in our brain. That's called neuroplasticity. And it's all about creating those new connections. When you first start doing something, the connection between those synapses in our brains isn't really strong. So of course it's kind of wonky and takes a lot of time, etc. But as you practice, I'm sure you have noticed that with something motoric, is that the right word? But basically when you're moving and learning a movement, right? It could be a dance, it could be something to do with sports. Regardless, you may have noticed that at first it feels kind of awkward, but then as you practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, it becomes almost automatic because the connection between those synapses has been built. It's a stronger connection. Our brains keep on evolving as we grow and develop. And so if you really want to be good at something, practice. And I know it sucks, it's hard, but practice. Trust me, you will thank yourself once you feel much better, much more confident. And of course, there's always going to be much more to learn. Which brings me to my next point. Number 2 is don't compare yourself to others. So we talked about it briefly, right? When you're comparing yourself to others who might have had different conditions, different starting point. Everybody is on a different starting point. Even if you compare yourself, like you had a very similar upbringing, still, you may have different brains and you might have different learning styles. So don't compare yourself to others. This isn't a race. This is, everybody is on their own timeline. Everybody's journey is unique, and this is your journey. You are the only person you should be competitive against. You in the past, you want to be better than that, and then you in the future, you want to make sure that version of you, I'm kind of getting confused here, that version of you, but it's reversed for you. Basically, the future version of you has to be better than you, and to do that, practice. Step number 3 is use additional materials. I've briefly touched on different learning styles. Well, that's a real thing. We learn in different ways, and different concepts take different methodologies and formats to really seep into our brain. I know that from personal experience. I'm dyslexic, and so for me, I can just tell how information sometimes doesn't stick. It just doesn't stick when I hear it, for example. If I hear someone's name, I will not remember that name. Or if I hear a new word in English, let's say, because that's not my first language, if I hear a new word, I'm not going to remember it until I see it written down. However, reading books is harder. And so I've started listening to books because this way I don't need to learn information. It helps me think, because when I'm reading, for example, I'm focusing all of my energy on reading, and I don't have as much space or capacity on thinking and processing, if that makes sense. So I know that from personal experience that everybody is on a different learning style trajectory. And yes, science has grouped up people into, visual learners, auditory learners. I don't remember the word for it, but basically learning by doing, etc. There are so many different styles, right? But certain concepts may require additional styles. So make sure that you use additional materials. Don't solely rely on the lectures, on the video course, on the whatever you're using to learn how to code. Find additional materials. Find additional materials in different formats. You want to make sure that you're optimizing your learning experience and, reiterating the same concept. If it doesn't stick, just try other different ways. Find a YouTube video that explains it, or find a book, or find anything that you think may supplement your learning. Use it. Be a sponge and look out for other resources than what you have in front of you. Number 4 is focus on your gains versus the gaps. And it's an interesting theory that I have come across not that long ago. And it talks about, so the gain is how far you've come, right? So it's comparing yourself in the past. And the gap is looking at what you don't know and where you want to be, and basically focusing on that, which tends to scare us, especially in technology. There's so much to learn, right? And there's so much to learn in the fields that you want to go into, let alone there's just so much to learn, right? Nobody can be a professional at everything, and it can be overwhelming. So focus on your gains versus gaps. Whenever you start thinking of, oh my God, I don't know anything, switch that. Try to figure out what triggers that reaction when you start freezing and thinking about what you don't know. When you start, like your heart rate goes up and you start getting scared and, fight or flight response symptoms. Try to notice the pattern when that happens and attach, because that will be your trigger. And every time that happens, attach a positive behavior of focusing on your gains and really recognizing what you have done already, what you have done so far, how far you've come, what progress you have achieved. It's all about creating habits, and this pattern recognition and attaching this positive behavior to a trigger is amazing. It has helped me with so many different things, including self-esteem issues when it comes to my visual appearance. I've noticed that the trigger for me for negative self-talk, and this is negative self-talk, right? When you're doubting yourself, doubting your abilities, and trying to kind of minimize yourself against what there is to learn, that is negative self-talk. So with me, I had negative self-talk when it came to my appearance. And I've noticed that negative self-talk kicks in every time I look at the mirror. So I decided to do a weird thing and start giving myself a compliment every time I look in the mirror. And at first it was really weird. It felt so unnatural, but then it became a habit. It replaced that negative behavior to begin with, and that has helped my self-esteem so much. You have no idea. It just changed my life. So focus on gains, not the gaps, and try to notice patterns when that negative self-talk kicks in so that you can create positive habits. Attach a positive habit, a positive action to that trigger. And finally, tip number 5 is journal. Use gratitude statements and positive affirmations to really recognize how far you've come, to be grateful for your learning process, and to process certain things about what you're experiencing on a day-to-day basis with these daily exercises. I do those exercises not necessarily when it comes to learning how to code, but just life in general, in my journal every single morning. And it helps me so much. I may be lying because some mornings I don't do it, and whenever I stop doing this, I can notice how I become much more negative. And my husband notices it, and he's like, have you not done your morning routine in a while? Maybe you should go do it. And then I restart it, and it works like a miracle. It's magic. It's amazing. And it has been scientifically proven that practicing gratitude actually helps you so much when it comes to everyday happiness and just positive outlook on life and etc. You can read up on it. And I have a separate video about gratitude. I will link it down there in the comments, and up here in one of these corners. I'm dyslexic, so I don't know which one it is. And when it comes to gratitude statements and affirmations, I also have a free PDF that you can download to do those daily exercises. They're incredibly helpful, and I really hope that they help you gain confidence when it comes to learning how to code. You can download that free PDF using the link in the description. All right, so these were my tips on how to gain confidence when learning how to code. Let me know what you thought about this list in the comments and if you practiced any of them. And of course, if you have any other recommendations, so happy to hear everything in the comments. Let me know. And of course, like this video if you've enjoyed it, share it with a friend who might be dealing with the same thing, with some confidence issues, because let's share the love. Let's help everybody be more confident on this planet, especially when it comes to learning how to code. And we can also be friends on other social media. You can find me as Coding Blonde. Have a wonderful time of the day you're currently experiencing. Bye.